Welcome back. Chapter 10, video number 3. We're talking about the 5 pillars of Islam. And the first pillar I told you is the profession of faith. The second pillar is the daily prayers. Throughout the day, Muslims are expected to pray 5 times, from early morning into night, and these are done at a community-wide level at the same time. This is where you'll hear that call to prayer. Another one of your vocabulary terms is the muezzin, the person who calls the people to prayer from a tower, and sometimes this is done through loudspeakers and so forth. It's a very evocative sort of sound that you encounter in Muslim cities and communities throughout the world. The other pillars we'll just kind of breeze through. One of them is almsgiving. Almsgiving means giving money to people who need it. And this includes poor people and widows and orphans, people who have lost people in their lives and so forth. But it also includes people like students, people like teachers, people who for some reason are getting less money in order to better themselves or better the community and so forth. It's a form of community welfare is what it is. It's a form of those who have the money sharing it with those who don't for the sake of the community, to help the community out. So it's seen as a religious act, both to give and to receive these alms. There's also fasting. That's the fourth pillar. And fasting, there's a number of times when it can be done, but it's certainly associated with the month of Ramadan. And the month of Ramadan is a time when Muslims throughout the world will fast during the daylight hours and overall observe a very somber time period. And then this is ended, as pretty much fasts everywhere in the world are, with a celebratory sort of return to normal life. And the final pillar of Islam is what's referred to as pilgrimage or Hajj. And this is a journey that each Muslim is expected to take once in their life, and it's to go to Mecca, to go to these holy places, and to carry out a rather complex set of rituals there. The idea isn't that you just get on a plane, go to Mecca, show up, say, hey Mecca, get on your plane, fly home. You actually engage in this very elaborate sort of multi-day ritual exercise. By the way, I might as well, let me see if I can find my book quickly here. I don't think I can. Anyway, I'm sorry I don't have it nearby, but there's a page in your book, oh here it is, that deals with this Hajj specifically, and I'll refer you to that just because, yeah, here it is, page 397, at least if you have the 7th edition. And that shows you kind of the complexities involved in this ritual and so forth, and that it has a number of different stages and phases to it, and what have you. And this is something that every able Muslim is expected to do. You may not be able, you may be too poor, you may be physically unable and so forth, but you have your whole lifetime, so you can probably make accommodations. And this ritual also has this very kind of equalizing aspect to it. Everybody, no matter what their life is like the rest of the time, is supposed to dress as equals during this time. Strip away all of their normal clothing, all of their jewelry, anything they have, and wear these very simple garments that are very literally, at least traditionally, become the death shroud of people. These are what people choose to be buried in traditional Islam. Very simple pieces of white fabric that are just wrapped around the body. This is something, by the way, if any of you have ever read the autobiography of Malcolm X, this really transforms his experience of Islam when he realizes that it has this very anti-racist sort of unifying strain within it of all these people from different backgrounds coming together to share their religion and so forth. Very transformative in his life. The other thing I want to talk to you about here in this video is not one of the 5 pillars of Islam, but it is a very important concept and one that's become a little confused in the modern world, but worth talking about certainly. And this is the idea of jihad. Jihad is a term a lot of people have heard, but if you ask them what it means, I think, you know, if you just went around campus at least, probably 9 times out of 10, if people knew what it meant, they would say that it means holy war. Jihad means holy war. And that's not really very accurate. There are certain circumstances where it can be used that way, but the term itself is much more complicated than that. And so I want to take a moment to talk to you about this. The term jihad means struggle or effort. And that means effort to follow God, effort to stay on the path that God puts before you. And there's two forms of jihad that are recognized. There's what's called the greater jihad, and that's the internal struggle. So this is the struggle with sinfulness or something like that, with the bad impulses you have. Just because you know what's right doesn't mean you want to do what's right. You have to put forth the effort, you have to make the struggle, you have to engage in this jihad in order to do what is right, even when you're tempted to do what's wrong. That's greater jihad. But there's also something called lesser jihad. And the lesser jihad is this external struggle. Struggle with outside forces who want to stop you from doing what's right, who want to stop you from being a Muslim, who want to stop you from practicing your faith. So this could be an individual, or it could be a group of people, it could be a government, or something like that. This term, jihad, has been misapplied, or sometimes correctly applied, to talk about struggles with non-Muslim groups. So, for example, we look back to the 11th century and into the 12th century and so forth, and the Crusades. During the Crusades, Christian armies fought Muslim armies in the Middle East, and this was something that certainly the term jihad was applied to. And it was 100% accurate. These people had gotten in ships or crossed a lot of land to get to the Middle East in order to kill Muslims because they weren't Christian. That was the whole point of the Crusades. Non-Christians were living in a place where the Europeans thought Christians should be, so they were trying to kill them so that they wouldn't live there anymore and Christians could take over. It was completely religiously based, politically influenced, and economically influenced too, but importantly religious. And an appropriate use of jihad. People have come to try to kill you for practicing your religion, so you fight back. But then, say, take World War I. In World War I, there are certainly Muslim groups involved. The Ottoman Empire is a part of this war. It's the end of the Ottoman Empire, this war. And jihad is used at this time as well. But now it's not really that accurate anymore. World War I isn't really a religious war in any meaningful way. There's people of different religions involved, but that's about it. It's much more a geopolitical war, an economic war, and so forth. But this term is still used because it's a good way to stir up people's support, right? If you say, hey, we need to go fight some people because of complex geopolitical reasons, that might get their interest. But if you say, we have to fight these people because we are commanded by God to defend our faith and they are enemies of our faith coming to take it away from us, that's a much more stirring sort of argument. Well, then in the later part of the 20th century, you see this applied to a number of conflicts in the Middle East, notably those surrounding the creation of the State of Israel and the destruction of Palestine and so forth. And here we have people using jihad very explicitly to try to stir up sentiment, to try to get people engaged in some sort of reactionary violence. Maybe correct, but often, maybe correctly used, but often used just as a propaganda tool to stir up emotions. What you then see happening again is the non-Muslim communities involved, the often European or American or Israeli, Jewish Israeli, saying, hey, look, this term jihad, this is a fanatic's term. This is a religious zealot's term. This is holy war, right? These people are fighting a war based on faith, based on their beliefs in divine, supernatural sorts of things. This is crazy talk. So whenever you hear somebody talking about jihad, that's somebody you have to be careful. That's a zealot who's going to try to kill you for their God and so forth. And so now you see the same term being used as propaganda, but in the opposite way. So some people are using it in order to stir up support. Some people are using it in order to stir up a response, to stir up a counter-movement. Now, boil this all down and multiply it by the first Gulf War and the current Gulf War and Afghanistan and all the things that America is now involved with, and you get this very complex, strange relationship going on involving Islam, violence, terrorism, so forth, that is really, again, only tangentially religious in terms of its content, but much, much, much more involved in political, economic, social sorts of conflicts. All right. Again, and I know I keep ending these videos by saying this, I'd love to talk more about this, but we're out of time. So, read your chapter, and I will see you for chapter 11 when we'll be talking about Sikhism. See you there.